to episode 5 of Subliminal Thoughts. Today we have a very special guest, the renowned Hamza Ali, that I've been following for a pretty good amount of time now, for real estate. And, when we talk about real estate spaces, this space that we're renting right now for this warehouse is kind of your specialty,
Yep.
right? This space that we're renting is a office warehouse space, and you can kind of, dive into a little bit. But before you do that, please introduce yourself. On
Yeah.
everything.
The way I like to introduce myself is I'm an immigrant. I came to the U.S. in 2014, really. So 2013, I came here to kind of explore. 2014, moved here full time. I lived in my aunt's attic when I moved here to the United States.
Wow.
And I stayed with her for 8 months. And at the time I was married, I had kids. I left them back home. I told my wife I was leaving for 2 weeks just to explore. And the opportunity was just so great. Like, I saw this crazy opportunity and I was like, you know what? I have to stay and figure it out. And I spent 8 months in a media room on an inflatable bed and decided, you know what? I'm going to start a business. I'm going to start a company and I'm going to start building these exact office warehouses. And I've been doing it ever since. And it's been a really interesting journey. And these office warehouses have really developed since I moved into the space. And, in the olden days, they were just like these 80s sort of construction, larger spec deals. Now you're seeing a lot of new businesses that probably didn't exist, including this one just a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And they need space like this. They need exactly this. And so I realized that in 2014, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to build this and I'm going to see how it goes. And that's kind of how I started. And funny story, when I first came to this country, I didn't realize that you needed credit. And, I didn't realize a lot of things.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm here. I'm just going to build these things and I'm going to get loans. I'd read books when I was abroad and I was like, oh, this is so easy, man. I can do this all day. And then once I got here, I realized, it's a little more difficult than that. And so, went through all those challenges. We'll talk a little bit about that later on. But, have been doing this ever since. I really love it. There's a lot of money to be made, which is now why I educate other people to kind of build. And I think that's kind of how we met, right? Through
Yeah.
the education, through social media, which
Yeah.
is where I educate other people to go and do it. Because I think it's so easy, so cheap. And I think it's fairly automated as well, which is
Yeah.
another thing that people don't like, right? You don't want to deal with tenants and they're problematic or could be possibly
Yeah,
problematic.
100%.
With this type of product, there's really nothing that can go wrong, So I just thought it was easy.
Yeah.
So, what was your first project?
That's interesting. My first project, I lived in Cinco Ranch at the time, which
Okay.
was like a crazy on fire zip code at the time.
Yeah,
It was
now
in
it's
Katy.
crazy, right?
And it was crazy at the time when I'd moved here because they had all these new residential subdivisions. So obviously I couldn't afford anything there with the little money that I'd come with. And so I ended up buying something in North Katy. At the time, that place was deserted. Right now, you go to North Katy, it's still pretty like high end. Homes are probably in the $500,000 range, 400 to 500,000. But back then, there was nothing. And I found this piece of land, negotiated it with this guy. I remember it was his dad's land, and he was just negotiating on his behalf, and ended up buying the property. And that's when I got stuck because I realized that I couldn't get a loan, and I hadn't done that due diligence prior. So I put all
Oh,
my money
damn.
into this land, and now I
Yeah.
went to the bank. I'm like, hey, bank, look, I have this land. And I want to build it. And I've read this book, Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor
Oh,
Dad.
yeah.
And this was 2013. So that book was like trending back then, right?
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, I read this book. And Robert says that, hey, look, if I have land, I should be able to use leverage and kind of build everything. And the banker's like, hey, do you have 2 years of tax returns? I'm like, oh, I just came to the country a few months ago. I don't even have a social security number yet,
Wait, so where did you immigrate from?
I moved here from Dubai, but I'm
Okay.
originally from Yemen.
Okay.
So I moved here from the Middle East, grew up in Dubai, so watched Dubai grow. I think that had a very big impact
Yeah, Dubai is crazy.
on my risk appetite because I
Right.
saw
Oh,
the
shit.
desert become from nothing to everything in like 10 years. And I was like, you know what? I moved to Katy and I saw that potential because it was like, it was like farmland and there were cows and, there was things that I didn't anticipate coming to America. When you look at America through a TV screen, it looks completely different. You think like you're gonna be in either California, or you're gonna be somewhere like New York.
Yeah.
And then you end up in Katy, Texas,
Or
and
a
you're
farm.
like, and
Like
then
Texas is all like a farm.
Wait, so
Right.
when you say North Katy, where's North Katy?
So North Katy is just north of I-10,
Okay.
and South Katy is south of I-10, basically. Right.
Like what are some crossroads that are like near where you're
So
at?
I would say I am on Greenhouse, Barker Cypress. So let's take Barker Cypress and West Little York, right? That's how
Oh,
further north I went. So it
Wow.
was the absolute
okay.
edge.
It's like Cy-Fair kind of.
Almost. So one street
Okay.
over is Cy-Fair.
Gotcha. Okay, I
And
know
so,
you're at.
Yeah.
I'm
So
not as familiar with that territory than you are because you're from Katy.
I'm from Katy.
Okay. Yeah.
But like when my mom got remarried, we lived out in Cypress.
Oh, so you know that area pretty well.
I don't, but like I know.
Right.
I definitely know the I
You
know
have
the
a
area.
general
idea of-
idea.
Yeah, for sure.
And so back then, really, there was nothing over. I was like one of the first people to buy land and start building it. And the reason I build land is because I heard, and this was totally just like, I'd come Dubai style, like, oh, I heard that they're going to be building a residential subdivision right in front of this property. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to buy this land because I think this residential subdivision is coming. And lo and behold, the residential subdivision actually came. So whoever passed that
Holy
information
shit.
to me,
Wow.
yeah, there was like, I want to say like 3,000 homes being built right in front of the piece of land that I bought.
Wow.
Yeah,
So whoever told you that is like a godsend for you because you
Well,
said you were stuck, right?
Well, I was stuck because I couldn't get the loan.
Right.
But at this point, I had already purchased the property.
And how much was the property?
I think I paid $320,000.
Wait, so how did you pay for it without the loan?
Well, I had cash.
Cash.
So when I actually sold a business in order to move to the U.S.
Oh, so you came here with money.
I came here with about, I would say about 350.
Okay.
Maybe a little more than that.
Right.
Okay.
And I needed money to process immigration, food,
Yeah.
buy a car.
It's cost of living.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just cost of living for those 8 months. And the reason I lived with my aunt is because I wasn't sure my immigration was gonna go through.
Right.
Right? Because you don't know. You apply and then you're waiting for like a year and you don't know, hey, is this gonna go through? Is this not gonna go through? What's gonna happen? Which is
Yeah.
why it took me so long to really make a move. But at the same time, I think it gave me a lot of time to really study that market and
Mhm.
understand and drive around. Because, until my immigration wasn't processed, I wasn't really gonna go and say, okay, here you go. I'm gonna buy this land and then just, YOLO it
Yeah.
all the way till the end. So my immigration, lucky for me at that time, it was a little faster than it is today. It got processed, I want to say like within 6 months or so. And so
2013.
2014.
Okay, 2014.
So from there, called my wife, told her, okay, pack your bags. Everything's
Love
done.
that.
You guys are moving here. That's a whole separate story. But
That's crazy, dude.
Yeah, it was.
Risk at a whole new
So was
level.
business in Dubai not taking off for you, or you just saw a lot bigger opportunity coming here?
So in Dubai, I was a realtor, and I worked
Oh,
for.
shit.
I was a I worked with very high net worth individuals, like royal families
Like-
and such.
Trillionaires.
And the reason I was able to work with them is because I graduated college in '07. I believe '07. So '07 was the big financial crisis.
I'm
Mhm.
09.
Yeah,
I'm
so
09.
so like we graduated, we had no jobs. We had to kind of hustle our way to make money, to make a living.
Uh-huh.
So it was almost like, okay, I graduated. Where's my job? And they're like, oh, guess what? You're not getting a job. Not for the next few years
Yeah,
at
I
least.
remember that. Yeah.
And Dubai's case was very sad because Dubai doesn't have a very big local population. So at that time, people actually ended up leaving the country.
Yeah.
And so now you have no people. You have all this real estate, and nobody wants to buy it. And so we graduated. 7 was really hard. 8 was even harder. 9, we kind of saw like, kind of sort of
What, 09?
09. So we knew that this is kind of the bottom and it's going up from here. So we had an influx of people come in and invest money in Dubai.
So the housing market crash here actually was prevalent in Dubai?
Oh, it was worse. It was worse
Really?
because at
Yeah,
least you
that's
people
crazy.
have a population. Like even though the housing market crashed, you still have all these people in the country.
Yeah.
Dubai's population probably decreased by no joke 50%. That's why
Holy
you
shit.
see, if you see in the news, you have all those abandoned supercars,
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Oh,
thrown
yeah,
in
like
the-
yards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Full of it.
yachts, and so guess
Damn.
what? You had developers at that time literally abandon projects and leave
Wow.
because these were international developers and they were like, you know what? I don't think we're gonna be able to finish this project, so let's just leave. So you had all these towers in the middle of the city at the time.
Wow.
So most of those were international contractors?
Almost all of them were. Only
it's
Wow.
like Vegas too. Like
Yeah.
Vegas is the same. There's like all international people. Like Resorts World or World of Resorts right now is built by China. That's like the newest casino in Vegas too. It's crazy.
Wow.
right.
Yeah.
So you had all these international. So they did have at the time a government developer as well, and the government developer slowed things down, but they continued with their developments. But all the international guys, they got out and left
Yeah.
because I mean they're building at like $500 million, but now the
Sheesh.
real estate is only worth $100 million because of the crash, and they're like, you know what, it's not
Sheesh.
worth putting any money into this, so let's just leave and we'll deal with it when we deal with it. And so the government actually ended up absorbing all of those developments and then rebuilding them on their dime.
Jeez.
And a lot of them didn't get built. You still have places that you will not see on TV that are not built.
I need to
Wow.
go to Dubai one
Oh,
day.
yeah, for
David, you
sure.
want to go? Let's go to
So,
Dubai
yeah,
one
you
day.
should
Paying
go-
for me?
Yeah, I got you.
So all this was happening, and you were like, I need to figure something out. I need to go to the U.S. And you told your wife, stay here. I'm gonna go try and start this business. And luckily, it was able to take off for you. In
Yeah.
short.
In short, yeah.
But
There was- there-
before you do that, the reason you chose Texas is because you had an aunt here, right?
yeah. So
And that's-
initially, I moved to Irvine, California.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
that
I mean, I
place
come
is-
from a beach city. They're all
Yeah,
rich people. I was
yeah.
like, you know what? I think I'm gonna go to Irvine, and that's
Yeah.
kind of where I want to be, right? So I land in Irvine. I land in LA. So
Mhm.
I take a flight from Dubai to LAX, land in LAX, go straight to Irvine, where I had an uncle, and I was like, okay, I'm here. Let's talk real estate. And-
Show me
Yeah,
the money.
exactly. And I've come with $350,000,
That's
and
a
I'm
shack.
like, yeah, exactly. And so he's like, yeah, let me show you around. And he was really nice, and he took the time, and he really showed
Yeah.
me around. And then I started to realize that I think I'm poor. I don't think I actually have money, because at the time I was 29, 350 grand in my pocket. I'm like, oh,
Well, in
man.
perspective, where you were.
Right.
Yeah, I guess the perspective was.
And so
yeah.
I go to LA, and then I realize I'm like, oh, I don't think I can really do business here. It's very expensive. And so luckily, while I was there, my aunt was like, hey, look, you've made it all the way to the US, come visit. There's a lot of construction going on here where I'm at. I think you'll like it. And just to put things into perspective, my aunt is a school teacher. So she really doesn't know real estate or understand real
Yeah,
estate
yeah,
in
for
any
sure.
big way. But she's like, come on, and you can stay with me for as long as you want. And she made me an offer, and I was like, you know what? Okay, I'm grabbing a flight because I cannot do business in California. It's just too difficult.
Yeah.
How long were you there for before you kind of figured this out?
I'd say I was there for about probably a month, maybe a little less than a month. I mean, it was pretty obvious fairly quickly that I was nowhere ready for California type business. So about a month I spent in California, moved to Katy, Texas. Quickly realized that, you know what? Yeah, I think we can do something in Katy, or in Houston as a whole. Ended up buying the piece of land. Did not get the loan. So imagine this: you spend all your money between immigration, car, food, clothes, and a piece of land that you have that you thought was gonna, give you the money to build. And now you go to every bank and they're telling you, where's your tax returns? We can't give you a loan because you don't have tax returns, or you're not a U.S. citizen, or these other things that a lot of people actually don't have to think about. And these were all things that I continuously had to think about because it was my livelihood and I had invested the money already, right? So I got lucky. I found what I now realize is a KP, so key principal. A key principal is a person basically who will guarantee the loan on your behalf for a percentage. And key principals in our business as syndicators or whatever, they vary depending on the size of the project. It could be like 20% of the proceeds all the way down to 5%, depending on how large this project is.
So is this a guarantor?
Yeah, so
Essentially,
basically, yes. A key principal is basically the person who guarantees your loan on your behalf if you
Gotcha.
can't guarantee it for whatever reason.
I got you.
Right? And at the time, I didn't know any better. So one of my bankers says, hey, I can find you someone who will...
It's one of those shitty conversations. Hey, I got somebody though.
who will,
I got this guy.
And look, this is the thing a lot of people don't understand, and maybe they would have let it go. But for me, I always knew this was a stepping stone. It's not like
Right.
this is my one and only project. I always had that, okay, if I can do this, the next one's going to be better. The one after that's going to be even better, you know, and they're
Correct.
all going to be amazing, right? So I'm already eyeing like 10 projects down.
This is literally, I'm in the same boat as you. But yeah, carry
So
forward.
so my banker introduces me to this gentleman, older gentleman, loan shark. And
for lack of a better word.
and basically the guy says, "Yeah, I'll totally sponsor this if your banker has underwritten it and it's okay. I just want 50% of your
Jesus.
profits." And I'm like, "Yeah, what? Look, at the time, I didn't even know what my profits were.
Right.
Like, I mean, I could do an Excel spreadsheet and it looked nice, but like real money in my bank account, even I didn't know what that was." And so,
Jesus.
ended up building the project, sold it. He netted $1.1 million. So the guy who applied for my loan.
Right.
And when I tell people this story, people get furious. They're like, "I can't believe you did that. You gave the guy $1 million." I mean,
What did you net?
so I netted the same,
Oh, okay.
right?
Yeah.
But my point is that had I not done that, I would have never learned
100%.
what I know today.
Yeah.
And I would have never been really able to do all the things that I did, because through that process, that learning process, I realized, oh, you know what? I can get investors now. Oh,
Yeah.
I can do this now, you know?
And you would have never made that $1 million had it not been for this guy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So essentially, you had to pay a significant fee, which, in the grand scheme of things, is actually minuscule
Yep.
to what you're gonna make. Because now you have a proof of concept, and every bank will dive at the opportunity to like give you a loan now, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, since then, things have changed. You know, we built a fairly large portfolio and then ended up selling the entire portfolio, well, almost the entire portfolio, in 2020, right before COVID. So imagine this, been working, you know, for how many ever years. 2020, get an offer from a company that says, "We want to buy the entire portfolio. Whatever
Oh,
you
damn.
own, we want." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, take it." And they were paying me a premium at the time.
Hmm.
And I was like, "Yeah, perfect. All right, go ahead. Take this company. It's all yours and everything in it, right?"
And if you so you started at you started at the 300K, and you sold the land. How much did you sell it for, if you don't mind me asking?
That specific project.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it cost me around $4 million.
Okay.
I sold it for about 6.4. But
Wow.
after
Wow.
you remove all the cost
Yeah.
and, you know,
And
all
how big was the land?
it was about 4 acres.
Wow.
Yeah, it was about 4 acres. But
Of places like this?
No,
Yeah.
no, no.
Yeah,
so flex spaces as well.
yeah, that's
Oh,
all I
okay.
did. So I built 5 buildings, 12,000 square feet each. It came up to 66,000 square feet plus a detention pond that was required for me to build in that area.
Right.
And I want to say I built it for like 4 million, whatever that cost is. That's including the land.
Mhm.
And then ended up selling it for roughly around $100 a square foot, which is $6.4 million.
Yeah, yeah.
About. Today's price is about $135 a square foot. So
Yeah.
it's 35% more than when I sold it.
Yeah.
But cost of construction has gone up as well.
A
So
lot,
that's something. Yeah. So
significantly.
that's something.
I
we need
think
to
like
price
per
in.
square foot right now is like 75 to 90.
I would say probably closer to 100, depending
Yeah.
on the build outs.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
because the build outs are really what really like these walls. These walls are
There's like the
expensive.
materials.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you sold this project for $6.4 million, and you netted your 1.1. And what year was this?
This was probably around 20. It took me 2 years, 2017.
And then you took the 1.1, and did you reinvest it into something else?
Oh yeah, I
Did you work with that guy again?
I did not. Because I mean think about this, right? So I came here 2014. I had 2 years of tax returns by the time this project sold. I had,
Okay.
you know, I had $1 million in my bank account. I
Right.
really didn't.
You
Like-
didn't need them anymore.
Yes,
Yeah.
and on the side, I was doing other real estate deals as well, through investor money.
Nice.
And that's kind of where I realized that, hey, you know what? I can actually combine these two things and have my investors, because you have to realize when I was building that warehouse, I was networking at the same time, and I was
Yeah.
calling a lot of people to show them what I was building. And so a lot of people would come up to me, "Hey, Hamza, man, I have money. You know, I have 50K, I have 100K, I have 25,000. I want to invest. I want something like this."
Mm-hmm.
And I was
So
like,
you
"Yeah,
built like an LP for like a ton of people.
right,
For those of you that don't know, LP is a liquidity pool.
yeah."
To for investors to kind of dive into.
Right. So I mean, it was
So instead of sorry to interrupt you. So instead of having like this loan shark, you would get a bunch of your friends or people you would know to throw in and create like a giant pot,
right.
and they would all get like a small percentage back.
Exactly.
Damn.
Okay.
So,
And well, it was more than a small, because I promised them 80% of the proceeds, and I would keep 20 as long as I didn't have to put any money into the deal. So I would be like
Wow.
what we
No
call
risk.
the operating partner, basically.
Gotcha.
So I'd operate the entire thing. I'd keep 20%. They'd keep 80%. Some of these deals that I was doing at the time were existing deals, so they weren't like all ground up development. Some of them were like already cash flowing. They were good. I thought I could make them better, so I jumped into those as well. And of course, I needed money to pay my bills, right, month to month. So that's kind of how that started.
Yeah, that was my question. So for your first development, you put the $350K down, and then you got the loan. How long did that development take to be fully built, and how did you pay for anything up until that point?
So
Just the loan you took out?
No. So within the loan, yes, there was a fee for me for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It would keep keep me running sort of,
Yeah.
but just bare minimal, right?
yeah, just being really frugal.
Beyond that, my investors then started investing in cash flowing deals. So I would get a percentage of that cash flow as well.
That's awesome.
Which was also like, at that time, I was probably netting total income maybe 15,000 a month, probably, give or take, 15, maybe I'd hit 20 on a good month, but it was, I think 15,000 is safe to say is what I was netting every month.
That's good.
Yeah, during that time.
Yeah.
It's good, but I made way more.
Oh
back
yeah,
home,
on
you know.
one. Yeah, back in Dubai. Yeah, absolutely.
So it was a start. It was a learning curve, lots of learning, lots of education, and 3 years to sell that deal, right? So if you take 2014 to 2017, that's 3
Wow.
years. And in that 3 years, I was basically like doing anything I could just to keep, my doors open.
Mm-hmm.
Once I sold that deal, I bought a piece of land in Cyfair, so one street over. And it was an amazing venture. So I bought 12 acres. And by the time I had purchased that 12 acres, I believe it was 2017. I think it was, yeah. I had already like other deals that were like maturing as well to exit. So I had like a couple of exits coming in because I had started buying deals in 2015 with investor money. And some of these were rehab, they were done, the value add was complete, and now I was ready to exit those as well. So I was starting, like I could see, I didn't have the money, but I could see that, okay, I'm going to exit this is how much I'm going to make. So I had that cushion, and I was comfortable at that point.
Nice.
That's kind of when I really went out, leased an office, started getting staff, started investing in my business and making this like a legit fund type structure.
When did it get to the point where you felt like I can't do this myself? Like I need a team.
I think probably sometime in 2016.
And at that point, how many properties did you have?
3. So we had 3 properties that we were working on. And when I say I couldn't do this alone, I had one other employee in the company. So it was me and one other person. 2017, after my exit, I think 2017, 2018 is really where we started to ramp up. And something really interesting that not a lot of people know about is we had a huge crisis in 2016, massive. It was the oil crisis when oil hit $30 a barrel.
Yeah.
Nobody was buying real estate at that time. I aggressively picked up, I want to say 2 or 3 properties in 2016. I want to say December of 2016 is when I bought those properties. So like into 2017. And when I bought them, people thought I was crazy. They were like, what are you doing, man? Why are you buying these properties? It's not worth it. It's so risky. And I bought those properties, those are my most profitable deals, by the way, till today.
Wow.
When I exited those deals, one of them I netted 300%.
Sheesh.
Yeah, one of them probably 250.
Was it because at that time nobody was buying real estate, so you got it super cheap?
Nobody was buying. Everybody was on pause. I remember at the time we were hiring for one person, and we were getting all these like oil and gas executives. Like I'm talking like
Jeez. Wow.
high level executives applying for jobs that were like paying not that much. And I was really confused as to why are we getting like so overqualified people. And we actually interviewed a couple of them, and they're like senior in their position. But
Holy
at that
shit.
time, Houston lost a lot of jobs, a lot.
Wow.
And so it was just a good time to buy real estate, you know. And so I took that opportunity. I bought 2 or 3 properties. I think it was 3 properties, and we actually exited them not too long ago. We exited them in 2020, and all of them were our best performers by
Wow.
far.
So this was the 12-acre land that you also built flex space warehouses on.
Yes.
So let me ask you a question. Why did you choose flex space warehouses?
I actually have background in industrial real estate development from back home.
Okay.
So I worked for a large developer. So I told you when we graduated, you know, crisis, real estate went down.
Yeah.
2010 really was when we started seeing the reversal, the tail end of that, to where people were starting to come in. I got an offer from an industrial developer to become a project manager on a government-backed project. It was a massive project.
Wow.
And I took that offer. And not too long after I accepted that offer, I got poached by an investor to develop for him privately.
Ooh.
So he told me, hey, Hamza, look, I want to develop my own office, like on my own warehouses, but, and I want you to run the show. And I was like, well, yeah, cool. I'll run the show, man. That's not a problem. And so I told him, you know, you have to set up an entity for me. You have to get me the correct, you know, insurances and all of that, and I'll help you with your project. And his project was big. It was a big project. I'm just trying to remember,
You're a popular man in Dubai.
man, you know, look, I grew up there.
Yeah.
I went to college there.
Yeah.
You know, all my friends are still there. I'm
Yeah.
still in touch with them. They're doing crazy. Some of them are just doing crazy things right now, you know?
Cool.
And so at the time I was like, okay, look, if you set up an LLC, you feed me, you know, you pay me, whatever it is, I will build this for you.
Mhm.
While I was doing that, the same person actually introduced me to other people as well who were giving me projects. Now that is the business that I sold in order to get money to be able to come to the US.
Wow.
I had a partner in that business. I actually sold out to my partner because I was like, you know what, I think I'm done, and I can probably do a little better in the US.
Mm.
So that's my background. I really have like in-depth background in steel structure construction. Now, not this small. This is a little smaller than what
Yeah.
I'm used to building.
Yeah.
But this is much more simpler, way more simpler than, you know, the stuff that I was working in. So
Mhm.
this is actually like I could close my eyes and, you know, just get a ton of these like pushed out every year, no problem.
That's
Yeah.
so funny. So when he probably pulled up, he's like, "Oh, I build these."
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's
okay.
so funny.
So the Cypher land, the 12-acre, what was the investment? Like
The investment was $1 million.
for 12 acres.
Yes, at the time. I know it's ridiculous.
Sheesh.
It's crazy. I actually have a course. Not that I'm soliciting the course or anything.
That's okay. That's
But
okay.
in the course, I actually show closing settlement statements. So
Wow.
I show proof of purchase and sale to my students.
12 acres down the street for the one I was looking at was 8.5.
Oh
million.
yeah, for sure. The land
Bro,
today,
that's
the land alone is probably worth at least $5-6 million. Just the
Jeez.
land. So at the time it was really cheap.
This is 2016.
2016. I
Okay.
saw this sign, orange sign. I still remember. I actually kept the sign till today, even when I bought the land. And it was like as if it was hand painted, and it said "for sale, call," and that's it. That's all it said.
Wow.
I called the guy.
It was a lot.
It was a large
12
parcel, man.
acres,
12
bro.
acres.
That's
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. 12
Wow.
acres is 520 something thousand
Yeah.
square feet.
Yeah. That's huge.
So, I called this guy. He's older gentleman,
Uh-huh.
and I meet him at Le Peep. Le Peep.
Le Peep.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Okay, so I still remember, man. I met him at Le Peep in the Galleria area.
Oh,
So
yeah.
inside the loop?
I live right there.
Okay, so
Oh,
Le
I've
Peep.
been there.
Okay, it
They
was the
closed
first.
down now, but
No, they're still there. It's
Peep is
it's
still
right next to Jen's place.
Oh,
It's,
wow.
it's literally in the shopping center where you get your
Oh.
haircut.
So I meet this
Legendary.
guy, probably in his late 80s,
uh-huh.
and he's the trustee for the land. And I'm like, okay, what do you want for it? He's like 1,060,000. I'm like, okay, I'll give you $1 million. Let's make a deal, man. I'll give you $1 million. He's like, nope, 1,060,000. And I'm trying to understand, why is this man stuck at
On
60,000,
on
like an extra
60,000? Yeah, I
60,000,
mean,
yeah.
I'm paying you $1 million today, right now. Give me the land. And he was stuck at 1,060,000. So it turns out he was making a commission of $60,000, and the seller of the property wanted exactly $1 million, and this is how he was gonna do it, you know.
Oh my gosh.
And so I was like, okay, 1,060,000, man, whatever it is. So I actually closed that land for
Right.
exactly $1,060,000.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, it was a funny story. I still talk to. He still calls me, you know, every now and then.
Yeah.
Wait, so he was a real estate agent, or he
Well,
was?
I don't know what he was. All I know is that he was the guy I dealt with.
All I know is I gave him $60,000.
Yep. On the settlement statement, you know, he has 60 grand for whatever
Right.
you know his thing is.
So
Yeah.
so fast forward this 12 acre. I think this is the YouTube video that I watched, how you turned 1 million into 16 million, right?
Yes,
So talk to us a little bit about that, because these are all flex spaces too, right?
these are all flex spaces.
Okay.
And-
This is fucking
And this
crazy.
is the fascinating part. So the before I did the 1 million to 16 million, okay? I did 300,000 to 6 million before that on my first project.
And that
because-
took 3 years.
Yes, because I remember I bought that land
Mhm.
for 300 and change.
Mhm.
And then we build it exactly the same way. Because you look, if you buy $300,000 worth of land, the bank is going to give you about $1 million
Mhm.
in debt, right?
Yeah.
I sold that thing for 6.4.
Jeez.
So I've done this before,
Love
right?
that.
So
That's
build
insane.
one building,
ROI.
refinanced out, build the other, refinanced out, which is why it took me 3 years to do the damn project,
Yeah.
you know, because it's like,
And also because you had no experience with like GCs here, so it's all
Exactly.
new relationships. So all these things that
Yep.
like potentially could have been avoided if you had new people, right?
exactly.
Damn, that's crazy.
And so before I did the 1 to 16 million,
Right.
I actually did the 3 to 6, right? The 300,000 to $6.4 million.
Which is kind of more impressive, because
Ex-
that's 18x versus
Exactly.
16x.
Exactly. So
Jeez.
it was a smaller dollar amount in my pocket, you
Right.
know, but I mean, as a project, it outperformed the 1 to
Absolutely.
16 million. And that 1 to $16 million video is actually inaccurate. That project, once completed, will be worth at least $20 million.
Because 16 million is that current appraisal of like when you
When-
appraise the land.
And when I
right?
posted that video,
Okay.
that was a couple of years ago, you know.
Jeez.
So I actually ended up selling that project not for 16 million, much less than that,
Okay.
because I sold out early. I didn't complete it.
Okay.
So there's something else that I learned during my time developing office warehouses, and that is time value of money. And time value of money now to me is more important than the money itself. And
Explain that. a little
okay,
bit.
so let me explain that. I build a project, and in this case, I have a YouTube video on this project, this specific project that you're talking about, the 1 to $16 million project, right? Had I completed that project, I would have probably pocketed $19 million, not 16.
Netted.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
Okay. Now, no, I wouldn't have netted because there's debt in there and there's
Okay,
other
okay. Right,
components,
right.
right? Project value would have been $19 million.
Okay.
You have to understand that now, because I'm running like at least 3 or 4 projects at the same time,
Right.
sometimes I get offers, man. I get like this project, I completed just one phase. I only built 1/3 of the project, and I got an offer from a buyer out of California at a premium. So they're like, you know what? We're going to come in and we're going to give you $7.4 million. And I was like, okay, done. It's yours. So I didn't actually
Damn.
finish the project. 2 reasons. Where we are right now in the market, buying stuff is expensive, and completing projects, you have to extend the project timeline at least a year. Right now, if I did that, I extended the timeline and it's going to cost me more to build, I actually net less as a total than I would today taking that $7.4 million and then reinvesting it in something else.
That makes a lot
I
of
hear you.
sense.
You know?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I took the $7.4 million, out of which I netted about $3 million because
And how long
because
of a
there's
time frame
debt.
was that?
Oh, 2 years.
Huh?
Yeah.
Ah,
So 2 years.
That's nice.
And now what I did is with that money, I mean, I'm not gonna let it sit.
Yeah.
I actually invested it in other land, and as you know, I'm investing aggressively in Austin as well.
Yeah, we talked
Um,
about that.
and I have
Again, flex spaces.
that's all I do.
Is there a reason you only do flex spaces?
Yeah, I like the automation, and I hate property management. I absolutely hate property management.
Well, if you're selling them, why would you have any property management at all?
exactly. That's why I build flex space and sell them
Okay.
because I hate property management.
Well, because if you like, let's just say you buy the land, right, and you build it, and there's multiple phases, each phase has to be leased out at least 80%. So if it's somewhere that like requires property management, you have to manage those people that are currently leasing those spaces, like
here.
apartments or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like apartments.
I
like
hear you.
We're talking about Donovan and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, but couldn't you just build an apartment building and sell that?
Okay, so here's the thing, right? You build an apartment complex.
Mhm.
It's beautiful. It looks gorgeous. 80% of your focus when building that apartment complex is in the last 20%. Backsplashes, fixtures,
Oh yeah.
doorknobs,
Yeah, here you don't give a shit.
locks. You know, this door is not lining up.
So there's too much
exactly.
detail.
Yeah, I don't have time for that, man.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
You're just
So-
trying to build one.
So,
Yeah.
so essentially, it's just a lot simpler. There's quicker, faster money in the
right?
business.
And you're not
Okay.
stacking anything on top. There's no complications. You know,
The engineering's pretty straightforward.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you're now doing it in Bastrop or Austin, Texas, or whatever, right? So a key question, and this is very important because you bought the land during a a recession. Do you believe that these projects are recession proof?
so in 2016, we hit a massive recession
Correct.
here in Houston, Texas.
Yeah.
It worked out in my benefit. My cost of construction went down about 30%
Mhm.
because I could find labor for cheaper. I renegotiated all my material contracts with all my vendors. Material was cheaper, and companies were actually willing to work with you on a payment schedule as well. They're like,
Wow.
you know what? As long as you're giving us business, you don't need to pay us right now, but you can pay us down the line. You know, so I think you have to look at it in a way where it can work to your benefit. Let's say tomorrow we had a recession and you're sitting on land, okay, and I'm sitting on a lot of land right now. And the first thing to go down in a recession is, guess what? Land,
Yeah.
right? So you can pick up land for nothing because there you have all these people who have all this land and they don't know what to do with it. And recession comes and they're like, okay, we want to get rid of this, right?
Mhm.
I'm sitting on a ton of land right now, and if a recession were to come, I'm gonna get hit hard, right? But I'm building all of this land. Now, if a recession were to come, you're gonna have a lot of companies that are gonna want to negotiate cheap contracts. And guess what? Instead of building for $95 a foot, you'd probably get away with $55 a foot.
Damn.
So let's just say you've built it when there wasn't recession, and now it's completed, and now you have to fill up the spaces. Will you and let's just say you have to fill up the spaces and then the recession hits. Do you think at that time it would be hard for you to fill those spots?
No. If I told a tenant, hey, look, 6 months free, I just signed this lease. 3 months free, sign this lease. You know how many tenants I'd get? You know how many people have hopes and dreams and they want to open businesses?
So
every single
essentially,
day?
like, as long as you provide them proper incentives,
Yeah.
you feel like this industry in the flex space development is essentially recession proof.
I do. I really
Yeah.
believe that. Well, recession proof is
That's a bad phrase, but
It's-
you get what I'm
right,
saying.
right,
It's
right.
like
Like,
it
you
won't
can
affect it
always
as much.
play.
you can
Yeah,
always
safer
work
play,
around
yeah.
it. You can always
Yeah.
work around it. You know what I
Okay.
mean? All that matters is that you are on top of your game
Yeah.
and you know what you're doing and you know how to maneuver around. So I maneuvered around 2016 very well. You know, I came out on top. There was no issues. I didn't have any vacancies. I didn't have tenants skipping. You know, if I had a tenant who couldn't pay me, I would literally tell them, hey, look, if you can't pay me, you think down the line, just let me know today because I have other tenants who I can put in. And that way you can get out of your lease and I have a new
That's
tenant.
great. Yeah. So you're working.
And
with them.
so I work with them a lot.
So
And
what do you look for in a tenant when you're like, when people are applying for rent? What do you look for?
this is a very interesting question. I have a very unique approach to what I look for. Most people will look at credit,
Mhm.
background. Of course, we check background at our office as well. But the most important thing for me today, in today's world, is your social media presence. And if that business is a car wrap business and they have like 50,000 followers, guess what? They're a good business. You know, if they have 100,000 followers, that's even better. I recently put a tenant in one of my warehouse buildings. Houston, we have a party. The girl has
That's kind of dope.
the girl has like 1 million followers. You think she's gonna skip rent? You know, because she has a reputation and it's out there.
It's
right?
like a new form of credit check.
It's even better than a credit
Yeah,
check.
yeah,
It
yeah.
is literally instant verification. You can tell what type of a person they are.
That's pretty interesting.
You can tell, what their habits are. Because, look, if you have a tenant that's going out doing drugs, partying all the time, guess where you're going to find all that?
Mm-hmm.
Someone's going to tag them in something, somewhere, and you're going to find it. So I actually don't do that myself. I have virtual assistants all over the world.
Love
and
that.
one of that virtual assistant's task is literally to check on my tenant social media profiles, which is public
Like consistently?
consistently. Yeah. So if we
Ah.
get a
That's pretty dope.
if
It's
we
like
get
a job almost.
yeah, if we get a tenant and they say, hey, I want to start, and this is a real story, by the way, I want to start a luxury automotive storage facility. And I was like, but you're renting 1,700 square feet. Well, how many cars are you going to put in there?
Right.
And so I was like, okay, I'll take your driver's license, whatever. We'll run background and, just make sure you're legit. And then turns out the person buys junk S-classes, Mercedes, comes in, repairs them, and then exports them to a third world country. Okay.
Oh, damn. That's
So-
a hell of a business.
I mean, it's a hell of a business, but what that does for the property is it's going to
Devalue it?
Yeah, because you're gonna have all these junk cars outside. And the reason he probably told me he's an exotic car storage facility is because other people kicked him out,
Mhm.
off their property because of how much junk they have outside. And that's the last thing you want to see is junkers outside your property, right?
Right.
Yeah, we can't even throw anything more than toilet paper in our trash can.
Right.
Outside.
And look, this is for the better of all the businesses.
No, 100%.
100%. No, I
I mean,
agree.
I mean, that's what we talked about here is like whenever we moved in here, I'm not saying we have the best flex space, but compared to every other tenant here, we substantially have
Yeah.
increased the property value of this place.
Exactly.
And there's no doubt about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's kind of where you really need to be. And I think social media is a game changer.
No, that's
you know,
smart. And I feel like a lot of businesses are kind of doing that now.
Yeah.
I feel like if you have to be careful what you put on social media. I mean, it's cool that you're doing that too, but I feel like that's definitely becoming like more of a norm of like an auditing process
Yeah.
for employment and just like approvals.
Pretty badass. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So how do you, okay, so you bought the land in Sci-Fair, right? The 12 acre. Before you did that, how did you find like the best place possible? Like how do you do your demographic search? Like, do you have a system in place that you kind of look for, or you just drive around town
For
looking
what?
land?
For
land. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I started driving around.
Because we live in Houston, bro.
Yes.
There's just
Yeah.
so much land. you
Right.
know?
So I started by driving around. At this point, I use social media to leverage everything. So if I'm looking for land, for example, in Bastrop, Texas,
Mhm.
I'm just gonna literally pick up my phone or my camera and make a YouTube video about it, or make a TikTok or an Instagram about it, right?
So you're prevalent on social media.
Oh yeah. And so what's gonna end up happening is someone's gonna reach out to me, DM, hey man, look, I saw your stuff in Bastrop. I saw you're looking for stuff in Austin. I want to send you these 4 deals that I have.
Yeah, like I watched your YouTube video. You talked about Austin development
Right.
and stuff.
And I got a contact out of that.
Oh, that's
Somebody who has land and they own the land and they want me to come in and build with them. So they're gonna JV with me, and I get that all the time. I have to actually now filter how many JVs I can handle,
Oh, that's cool.
just because a lot of people have land, they don't know what to do with it. They're like, oh, how do we build this? What do we do? Okay, we're
Yeah.
just gonna partner with Hamza, let him deal with it. But the thing is that deal flow, it has become easier because of social media. I leverage it both
That's
ways.
true.
So not only do I use it for tenants actually use it for me. I have a ton of tenants. Hey, I found you on TikTok, bro. I want to rent from you, and some of them are my tenants.
That's sick.
And yeah, so it's pretty cool. It works both ways because I actually show the space, hey guys, I have this space for lease.
Yeah.
Come take a look inside. This is what it looks like.
Oh, that's cool.
This is what I'm asking for it. And then I get, a ton of feedback on that. And then I know where my pricing should be.
So I'm confused now. So it sounds like you do some sort of property management.
No. So, okay, my strategy is,
Well, you guys have been discussing tenants.
well, yes, but my strategy is this, okay? I will buy the land. I will list it for sale immediately the day I buy it, okay? For a higher price. And I will do this in multiple locations at the same time, okay? Now, while I list it for sale, I will not stop. I will also apply for my permit. So I'll get the engineering, get the architects to start working, and I will not stop there. It's going to cost me, let's say, $100,000 for a development. I'm not going to stop, okay? If the architect, if my engineers and architects are able to give me an approved permit before I was able to sell the land, I'm going to go ahead and start building. At that point, I'm also going to list the property for sale, but now it's higher because it's shovel ready.
Right,
Mhm.
right,
So there's a
right.
premium.
Like you've
there.
already done your due diligence on the
Exactly.
land and everything. Yeah.
So the new buyer doesn't really have to do nothing. He just needs
Yeah.
to come in and literally build. And there's
That's
a lot of
awesome.
buyers that look for that.
Mm.
Yeah.
So shovel ready, I jack up the price a little bit,
Yeah.
and I list it for sale as a shovel ready project.
Mm.
But I don't stop. I actually order the materials, start building. And if I get someone who wants it at shovel ready for the premium, I sell it there. If
Mm.
I don't, I'm gonna build what we call a phase one, which is 1/3 of the project.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
So for multiple projects, there's different exit strategies you have, and sometimes business just kind of comes to your door and you sell it whenever you see fit.
Yes.
Yeah, if you
uh,
making extra money, but just doing, spending a 2,000, 3,000 doing a, survey, then
Well, you
he's-
get it shovel ready, you could sell there. You do the phase one, you
Yeah.
could sell there. You
Yeah.
could finish building it, sell it there.
Exactly.
That's
Now,
awesome.
now the thing is, of course, the later on you hold on to the project, the higher the premium that you'll pick up.
Exactly.
But time value of money, once again.
100%.
So if I feel like, hey, it's gonna take me too much time to get there, and I can do it faster if I do 2 projects with this premium, I'm just gonna bail out. And
so
I'm gonna-
just not getting attached to your
Yeah.
project
Yes.
also.
Well, I'm attached to every project because it has my name on it,
Yeah, of
and it's
course.
on social media. And but
Yeah.
that is the quality of my work rather
Yeah,
than
yeah.
me actually holding on to it, because it's
Yeah.
always gonna be there. Everybody is gonna know that this was Hamza's project. He built it at some point. So I don't. I also don't skimp out on quality. I like quality. I actually
Yeah.
pay my builders, my GCs, a premium to get my projects done faster, because once again, time value of money, right? For them, they're like, oh, Hamza's paying us 5% over market, but for me, I'm 2xing my money faster or 3xing my money faster, which is
100%.
which is totally worth
Damn.
whatever I'm gonna pay
Pay-
these guys.
exactly.
It's pennies on the dollar.
Yeah,
That's-
you're taking
yeah.
care of if he charges you $60,000, you're paying him 75,000, and he's like, damn, he's paying me 25% more,
Right.
but that 15,000 will make you an extra 300,000 in 3 months.
exactly.
That's
Yeah.
pretty smart.
And the
yeah.
extra premium I pay is
Yeah.
always at the end. That's my last payment. So it's like I dangle the whatever they call it, the carrot or whatever.
Right.
And it works. These are
Yeah.
strategies
Yeah.
that actually work.
I mean, it's
Like,
just money at the end of the day.
right?
Yeah.
And if I'm gonna 3x my money in 2 years versus 2 years and 8 months, it's totally worth it.
Yeah.
So you did answer you kind of answered the question, but it still sounds like you're renting out properties. Like, because you said you're auditing people's social
Yes.
media, you're showing like, hey guys, this place is open for
So,
rent.
Yes. So what I do have is I have a team of virtual assistants, and what they assist me with is leasing. So I will do the social media. Once somebody gets in touch with me, I will tell one of my assistants to touch base with them and help them lease. Now the cool thing about this is
Wait.
that
You help them lease for a place that you still own,
Correct.
or something you've sold.
no, it could be either or.
Okay.
So, but most of the times it's places that I own, because once I'm done,
You're done. You're
I'm
out.
done. Yeah, I usually I may be working a lease
Mm-hmm.
and the property transacted, so I'll complete that transaction, like that lease that I was about to sign.
Mhm.
I'll sign it for the new buyer, but I will not look for new tenants because
Okay.
I like to keep that wait list for myself.
Yeah.
For my next project.
So you're not
Smart.
always selling. Sometimes you have properties that you just sit on.
Well, it depends on the price, right? If I'm not getting the price I want, then I have to continue building.
And then, or just kind of rent it out in the meantime until
Correct.
you find time to
Exactly.
sell it. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's when the tenants come in.
Yes, and that's
Okay.
exactly when. And so my tenants generally are with me for 3 to 6 months. and
Okay.
not more than that. So all I'm doing in that time is just collecting rent and keeping things
Trying to find a buyer.
simple for them, and at the same time looking for a buyer.
And what's the process for you to look for a buyer?
So buyers actually also reach out to me quite often because I've been in the space now for
Of
so
course.
long. But my first project I sold through a broker, and I think she did an amazing job. I haven't touched base with her, in all honesty, since she sold my first property for me. But beyond that, I transact basically broker free, whether it's leasing or selling.
Yeah. They just
Um,
contact you directly.
And
essentially, yeah.
well, and I use for leasing, I spend about, when I complete the project, let's say I had to build a phase one, right? And it's ready to get occupied, or it will be ready to get occupied in the next 6 months. I start running Facebook ads aggressively. I spend about $30,000 on Facebook ads to get my spots all leased out. And
And-
usually,
In what period of time?
I'd say about 60 days. So probably
Yeah.
15,000 a month. And usually I'm able to lease out an entire business park before I actually complete building it. Like
That's
let's say,
pretty cool.
yeah, so let's say I know that, okay, 60 days from now or around 60 days from now, this is going to be complete. Okay, start running my Facebook ads, right? I target 5-mile radius because this is my core demographic. I want all the mom and pops in the neighborhood to start their businesses here.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I'm going to spend 15 grand, by the way, which could be one commission check for one tenant, depending on who the tenant is. So I'm getting a steal, right? and they're dealing directly with the landlord, which makes them comfortable, which makes me comfortable as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So run the ads, get the tenants. Sometimes I have gotten into trouble with projects because there have been delays. Like we anticipated, for example, 60 days. We told all of them, okay, we're going to be done in 60 days. They start advertising that, hey guys, coming soon, wrap shop, this shop, or whatever, boxing gym, right? And then 60 days passes and we're like, oh my God, we're going to need another 60 days.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, you need to keep your tenants happy at that point. So what we do is we start incentivizing them. We're like, okay, guys, we're late. For every day we're late, you don't have to pay us rent.
Yeah.
So let's say we're late for 30 days.
30 days.
30
free.
days is on me.
Oh, nice.
Once we're done. And this really keeps them hyped and
Right.
keeps me, on,
Your
on
credibility
point.
is good too.
Right,
They're
right,
not
right.
like, oh, this guy's just trying to scam me out of my money and
Right.
locked me in place. I can't even move
Right.
anymore.
And so
Yeah.
I have had tenants in the past leave because of such delays.
Mm.
And those delays were primarily due to the pandemic. We just had issues that we didn't foresee.
Yeah.
And the city's short staffed, the county's short staffed,
Mhm.
we're short staffed. So, we ran, I would say, on one specific project, about 100 days late. So that's
Damn.
almost 3 months. And our tenants were like, come on, man, you told us we were going to start our business. We sold this. They all have, uh, they all have to make arrangements in order to prepare for their business, right? And
Correct.
so we had to kind of absorb all that cost and we had to give it to them. We're like, okay, you know what? Once you guys get this, we're gonna give you 3 months free. We don't want your money. And then we ended up selling the project.
That's great.
Um,
Yeah.
So you just kind of have to work with.
So when you sell it, do you make sure that they get those 3 months free?
Oh yeah, I mean it's in the contract, it's in the lease. So when the buyer buys it, he knows that okay, I'm not gonna make money for 60 days or whatever,
Okay.
right?
Cool.
And usually what ends up happening is, let's say I signed the lease today, that said 3 months free. Usually it takes your buyer about 3 months to close on a deal because they need to secure financing
Right,
and
right.
funding and all their loan processes. So I think it was timed well to where they actually didn't.
They're still working with you before
Right.
you sell.
Right. So, and it
Gotcha.
worked out well for them because they still cash flow day one when
Mhm.
they bought the property. I was the one
Yeah.
who took the hit, but I mean,
Mhm.
it's okay. It's all right. It's, once again, not too much in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. Time value of money.
So it's we probably go on a water break after this. I know you need some water.
Right.
You've been doing this for 7 years now, and you've primarily focused only on flex spaces. If there's one thing you could do differently, or multiple things you could do differently, and go back and change, what would you do differently?
So this is a very important thing, actually. I think that's a great question. And what I would do differently is I would market a deal to investors while searching for the deal at the same time. So not actually have the deal in hand that I'm marketing.
What
And
do
in
you mean by that?
So in the past, it's a vicious cycle, right? You have to find the deal, make
Find
it
the
work.
deal as in flying the land.
Find the land, make sure all the numbers work, and then pitch that land to the investors,
Mm.
right? So until you don't find the land, you can't pitch anything to the investors, right? And if you find the investors first and you don't have the land, so you have nothing to pitch to them. You're like, what are you gonna do? Like have a cup of coffee? I mean, there's really nothing you can talk to them about. But what you could do, and what I have learned, is that you could create a scenario, a generic scenario, and tell them, look, this is how I think it's gonna pan out. So I would create like a generic deck, or I would have if I could go back and tell them, look, this is what I think it'll look like. These are renderings. This is not a real project, but this is kind of what I'm working towards. And it's not that I want them to invest yet, but it starts creating awareness, and they know that okay, Hamza this is what he's trying to do, and he's actively raising money for this. Right. My mistake, I think, was with the investor part was I actually waited every time till I actually found that specific piece of property, ran all the due diligence on it, did all my numbers, made sure that they were like very close to what I thought they were going to be, which, by the way, they never work out that way. Whatever numbers you have on your pitch deck, they never actually work out. It's either way over or way under what you thought it was going to be. It's never that number.
Mhm.
And what I would have done is I would have probably started pitching to investors day one. That's something I didn't do. I don't have any regrets, but had I done it, I think my company would have been much larger than what it is today.
So I asked that question because I'm headed into this space too. You close on the land in 2 weeks, and I have the same scenario where I have I think it's more my excitement. I'm like pitching it to multiple people. Like I've told all my friends about this whole like scenario that I'm doing. It's like, private lending is probably the biggest thing, because like when you go initially, you go to a credit union or something like that, and you have no proof of concept. It's going to take a lot longer for you to get this whole thing settled, right? So I'm in the same boat where I'm just like, we're about to close on the land, but we don't want to use our own money, or like go to the credit union and get turned down multiple times, delay the project. So the reason why I ask you this question is like, I feel like I'm literally doing the same thing that you're talking about. Is I'm pitching it to investors already, like, hey, we have this land. It's going to cost us around 2.2 to build a 2-phase project, just so like that's kind of what I'm doing too. I love, and it feels like I have a very similar like train of thought, because I feel like I'm going in the same direction. Obviously I'm inspired by you doing this, and David and I are freaking, when we leased this space, we encountered so many issues that we wish like a landlord like you would help us prevent. But it's also like, was our ignorance in the beginning of like coming into the space,
Right.
and seeing like, okay, we just looked at the rent. We didn't see like how many things we had to fix in order to get to that point.
Yeah.
And a quality standpoint that you talk about in one of the most important measures is like quality of the building itself. And maybe it's because this building's a little bit older. I think it's built in '08. But we look at this space and we're just like, man, like this differently. But
it's also like what he said. I mean, like if you don't make these mistakes, you don't learn anything from it.
Yeah.
And now look, we made this. I would even say it's a mistake.
Yeah.
I think it's okay for what we're doing. Right. But now you're like, you know what? I'm going to build my own buildings now.
Yeah, that's literally, we literally rented this space, and then I found you on TikTok. It was like this cycle, or it was just like this perfect timeline. And then I sat down with my best friend. I was like, yo, let's build warehouses.
Yeah.
Because, fuck this place,
Let me ask you, what did you guys end up fixing?
Oh,
dude, you should have seen.
Dave-
I'll show you pictures of what this place looked like before, but dude, these walls weren't even white. There was holes everywhere. It was a shithole.
yeah.
So absolute shithole.
No insulation. Floors, were just concrete, bare concrete.
I'll just show you a picture so you can get an
holes
idea.
everywhere. This behind you is actually the warehouse bay door. We built a false wall. We talked about it. We put an AC unit.
So now you guys are going to be on the other side of that when you guys build.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
And isn't that a good thing?
It's
for you
amazing.
As a landlord?
Yeah, because now we get to say, you know what, guys? And I think like the three of us have this key commonality in mind, that we speak very highly of quality over everything.
Right.
And we care about the customers that come in, because we're like, man, like I never want to rent a space anymore that I never want to give someone a space anymore that I wouldn't rent myself. Yeah, that's
This is basically unfinished.
Yeah.
Like this is literally not even a finished
it was
product.
fucking terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fucking terrible. So
But we walked in, and to be honest, for a space like this, there
I'll get
is
you some water.
There is a lot of customizations that we wanted, so it just made more sense for us to. I mean, maybe now looking at the grand scheme of things of how much we've spent to like kind of add insulation, renovate painters, add an AC unit. I mean, for like the $50,000 we've probably put into this, we could have put that to maybe being in a nicer place and use that to distribute it over a few months to pay for that rent. And obviously attract maybe even a higher clientele.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
I agree. But I think about all of this from the landlord perspective.
Yeah.
And just being a landlord in this space is so easy because the businesses need customization. But that doesn't mean that the landlord has to provide them, right? I mean,
Exactly.
it's your business. You have to do the build out. And now you guys are going to be on the other side of that, and you're going to take advantage of that. Because guess what? When you rent out retail, like I just rented to own my office building. And
the one in Riverstone.
Yeah, and guess what? The landlord's giving me a $225,000 build out allowance.
To do whatever you want?
Yeah, I mean to build my office because
Wow.
because I'm renting a shell, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In office warehouse, nobody's giving anybody an allowance.
Yeah, definitely not.
It's like, can we get an allowance? No.
It's because the rent's so cheap.
Well, that's the other thing. Rent is I think rent is not cheap everywhere.
It's not, but I'm saying like for here, like let's just say she's charging us $3,000 a month. Why would she give us any bit of allowance for that?
Yes,
It wouldn't make sense.
Yes.
Yeah. 100%.
And
But if you're paying $20-$30K a month and you've signed maybe like a 3-4 year lease,
yeah.
here's a little
How
allowance.
long is your lease?
We only signed 1 year,
Okay,
so it's up in July of this year,
So-
but we're gonna definitely extend it.
so I love 1 year tenants.
yeah.
I love 1 year tenants. You know, my bank, they
Yeah.
hate 1 year tenants. They're like, Hamza, you need to stop signing 1 year because you know they need
want
sense of
guarantees.
security,
100%.
right? They need to
That
be
cushion.
secure. They're like, Hamza, why don't you sign 5 leases? I'm like, guys, I don't hold the project for a year. What do you care if I sign 1 year or 5 year? What are you
Yeah.
gonna
They're
do?
still making their money.
Right, and
Yeah.
and I'm out. You know,
No, we're definitely extending because I don't know if Davey told you, but we spent around $50,000 on this
Yeah.
place. You know, just to give you guys some perspective, our studio is 1,600 square feet. So, we spent $50,000.
so what
in
is that per
renovations.
square foot? 50,000 divided by 1,600.
$30?
You think? Yeah, that's I think it is.
$30?
31.
Yeah,
$31?
31. But
Yeah.
that includes all your equipment.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I mean, yeah,
What
equipment.
equipment?
You're taking your equipment with you, right? So,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's great. So the another question I want to ask you is real estate has a lot of different realms, right? You have your residential, you have your commercial, but in those two spaces, so we're going to talk about commercial is what we're talking about is just flex spaces. And then families, I know you have sold a lot of multifamily
Yes.
assets, right? So what do you think is the pros and cons? So what would you choose? Would it be flex spaces or would it be multifamily, and why?
And what is multifamily?
multifamily is basically apartment communities. Very, very common here in Houston, Texas. Not so common in other states. I learned, like for example, in Florida, you have multifamily, and then you have these condos that people that people associate with multifamily, but they're not, because condos are individually like deeded. Multifamily, you literally buy an apartment complex. It's one deed. It's one transaction.
It's
you
like
know.
30
Yeah, 30,
tenants.
50, 100, 200, 500, right? And believe it or not, I actually built the bulk of my wealth in multifamily. I just got tired of dealing with the property management
okay.
Mm.
component of it. And I think what happened is after the pandemic, I realized I was lucky enough to sell my entire portfolio right before the pandemic hit. I had
Because a lot of people didn't pay rent for residential and
well,
still aren't.
I
right?
was on the front end of that, so I didn't get to see too much of that.
Yeah, but
But then exactly what
Your
you're talking
timing.
about happened. I had a smaller portfolio that the larger company did not want to buy. It was 400 units divided in like 6 or 7 different communities. So all of them were like less than 100 units. And less than 100 units is very difficult to manage because they don't generate enough income for you to create jobs in them. So you have to have
Mm.
part-time people roaming around these communities. And then the hardship hit. You had people pass away in the community. Then you have crime increased significantly in all of these apartment communities. Just situations where you're not able to collect rent, and you have to pay investors somehow. And we actually had 2 communities specifically that did not pay investors returns in like a year and a half
holy shit.
in these smaller communities.
Yeah.
The larger ones, they can kind of hold their own.
Yeah.
Because there's just such a influx of the numbers are big enough to where it works.
Mm-hmm.
The
They-
smaller
it'll even out
Yeah.
like the people paying rent versus the people
right.
not paying
The
rent.
smaller
right?
communities, you really struggle with them because if you have like a 30 unit community and 10
Yeah.
aren't paying rent, and the 20 you need to pay off the debt, the insurance, all the other stuff, you really have not much cash flow coming in.
Right.
And so what I then realized is, you know what? I don't think I want to deal with property management because, I had managers who were getting sick, and it was just very messy.
Yeah.
And that's when I really realized that, I think I want to automate this entire process. But guess what? When it comes to residential or multifamily, you can't automate as much as you would like to.
Mhm.
You need somebody in the leasing office because if you
Yeah.
have a
Like a broken AC unit, a leak in the roof.
right, and
yeah.
and then the tenants have circumstances, like
Yeah.
my mother died, which is true, right?
Mhm.
And I won't be able to pay my rent. I had a excellent tenant, amazing tenant, older lady, lived in one of my apartment communities for 17 years.
Wow.
Got diagnosed with cancer, terminal, and she couldn't go to work, and now she can't go to work. And I have history with this tenant.
Yeah.
For 5 years, on
Yep.
time, every time, grabs the bus, goes to work, comes home, pays rent, very quiet, amazing tenant to have. Terminal cancer. And she comes to our office and she's like, look, I just got diagnosed with terminal cancer. I'm not going to be able to make rent.
Oh no.
What do you do?
Yeah.
Right? What do you do? And so I was like, okay, we'll pay your rent. It doesn't matter, you know. Nobody needs to know. I actually personally paid that tenant's rent for like 2 months. But then after 2 months, what are you gonna do,
Yeah.
right? And so I, you know, or people in my position have to report to other people who are money driven, right? You promised us you were gonna give us this return. You have vacancies, and this is just one such scenario,
Mhm.
right? You can imagine with a portfolio of 1,400 doors, you get many such scenarios on a daily basis.
Yeah, because like there was like a Texas law for like an executive order where you can't evict them
No.
during the pandemic,
No,
right?
no. So,
Damn.
so you know, but these stories, you can't automate this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With an office warehouse, you can automate the entire process because this is a business, right? And
Yeah.
so I realized that at that point, you know, multifamily, you can automate up to a certain point, but you can't go beyond that because you'll have circumstances that are just very unique and you need human interaction. And I wanted to eliminate that entirely. And so what I did is multifamily is gone. This is the new thing. It's growing. It's cheap to build. You can sell it for a ton of money and you can automate the process completely. Like, I don't know what what processes your landlord has in place,
Mhm.
but I could run this from the Bahamas, from Puerto Rico, from wherever I am.
She don't do anything.
Right.
She's
Exactly.
She's like, there's a so our landlord.
What, here?
Yeah, she don't do anything. Our landlord included the AC, right? So like initially when I was signing the lease, I was like, great, she, you know, includes the AC. There's a fucking leak. I like call her and she's like, you gotta take care of it on your own. I was like, wait, what do you mean you included it, but I gotta take care of it? She was like, I just gave it to you, but you gotta pay for the damages. I was like, God damn it. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, true automation. Like she doesn't, I mean, you can look at the building. She doesn't even power wash since
Right.
08, probably.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so this is definitely true automation. And, you know, actually she's really lucky that, and we are really lucky. We have amazing neighbors.
Yeah,
Like,
honestly.
Yeah, you guys
no
have good
one
neighbors.
complains.
I noticed that. You guys have great neighbors.
I mean, we
Like,
did the,
quiet.
Like, when I first pulled up, I was like, Daniel, what the fuck did you find? Like, I don't want to move
Yeah.
here.
yeah,
And he was like, just trust me, just trust
Yeah.
me. And like, I met everybody from top to bottom.
so cool.
Such nice like local family businesses.
Right.
And honestly, the area is like really safe. And I mean, yeah, I think we both wish it maybe looked a little better, a little nicer on the
Yeah.
outside, but
It's
we
not what's on the
definitely got
outside, it's on the inside that counts. you
we
know what I
definitely
mean?
got blessed with having like really nice neighbors.
Look, I think you did, and I think you got a good deal, and you got a decent product.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
And like, I mean, you guys made it your own, which is the best part. So when now that you guys are gonna be on the other end of this,
Yeah.
like as landlords, when your
Yeah.
tenants make these type of improvements, it'll make you so happy. It'll be like, man,
She
these
doesn't
guys,
even know we've done
Yeah,
this.
Yeah.
no, that's a good perspective. Like, so what do you think if she ever comes in here, what do you think her first impressions would
Yeah,
be?
I think, man, look, I have tenants that come in and spend a ton of money on their warehouse spaces.
Yeah.
Okay, like they just make it their own. They make it like a second home almost. And I
Yeah.
just get so happy when they do that because number one, it's their business and they want it to be professional. They want it to be presentable, right? But at the same time, you have a sense of almost like a guarantee that this person is really not going anywhere unless I kick them out.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
a good
that's-
idea.
that's a
That's
pretty-
smart.
And so when tenants spend money like 50,000 on a spot, guess what, man? These guys are not really going anywhere, And
Yeah, that's
now
true.
that you guys build and you guys are gonna get to see that firsthand, you guys are gonna be like, yeah, I love my tenants.
I
you
can't
know?
wait for you to see it, man. I'm making this shit look like the Apple of warehouses.
Yeah.
It's gonna
Yeah.
be like either like all black and white LEDs everywhere.
So
I
what
mean,
have you costed per square foot?
so it estimated around 75 to 90.
Oh, that's
Right
not
now.
bad.
Yeah, so we found an amazing GC that builds for Sam, and he gave us the whole proposal, and it was an absolutely amazing deal. And now we're closing the land in 2 weeks, and then we're forwarding to the architectural drawings, and then but that's you've definitely given me an amazing insight at like the processes simultaneously done as you're developing, because I drove down Highway 90 and there's flex spaces building, right? We
Right.
talked to the owners. They sold every single unit.
Right.
So 1,600 square foot, they sold each unit for $375,000. It costed them $120,000 to build each space.
Yeah.
And they're not even finished.
Yep.
So I love the value that you're kind of teaching us, because not only are you've seen a new generation using social media, because in 2013, this was not a thing. You know, using Instagram, having clout, like this was not a thing in 2013.
No.
So I love that, like, you're taking this modern day method and you're actually using it to benefit your business, because that's amazing. And I was talking to, my friends about it and my business partner about it. Like, yo, when we build this place, I'm going to tell like my subscribers and my followers, like, hey, I have warehouses, come lease from me as a small business owner. And so like, it's literally what you're saying. And it's really amazing, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely. I think now is the time where once you build this like personal brand around around you, you know, finding tenants just becomes so much easier, and then filtering through them becomes even more easier because they know exactly what you're talking about, and most of your messages are going to be like, hey, I saw your video on TikTok, I'm interested,
Yeah.
this is my business, when can I come and take a look, right?
So you started with $350,000. You bought the piece of land. Let's just say you didn't sell anything up until today. How much do you think in total that entire portfolio would be worth in 7 years?
So I don't want to think about that because I did sell.
Yeah.
And so, everything I sold is worth significantly more
Right.
than what I sold, but the total cost, and this includes everything like the debt and, everything, investor money and all of
Right.
that. When I sold my business in 2020 was around $270 million.
Sheesh.
Yeah. And
That's
and had I
amazing.
not sold, it would be
Yeah.
worth about 30% more today.
7 years from $300,000
Yeah.
to $270 million portfolio.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is fucking amazing. That's so crazy, man.
Right.
What would you say to someone that wants to get in this business but maybe doesn't have $350,000?
I would say, you can start with much less than that. It just depends on how long it takes you to get the investors to invest in you, right? So I could start today with $0. Like I have projects that I literally have $0 in. It's all fully investor funded. When I started out, the first question my investors would ask is, Hamza, how much money are you investing in this deal? Because they want to know if I have at this
They
Skin
want
in
to
the
know if skin
game.
in the game.
yeah, at this point they don't care. They're like, look, man, we know what you're doing. We want in.
Yeah.
The tone has completely changed now to where they want in versus they're still trying to gauge.
Because
You have
they-
a proof
because-
of concept.
Exactly.
Not only that, it's just social media, man. I just record everything I see, I like, I post, I talk about as much as I can.
Damn.
And I literally genuinely want to just educate people, and as a byproduct of that, people just want to invest with me.
I think that's why, like, I was so fond of you, because you can, we've done social media for so many years. We're able to spot personality.
Right.
You seem just like humble about the whole. I mean, $270 million.
Yeah.
Like that's nothing to sneeze about. And you're super humble. You're modest, and you're, most importantly, you're willing to help people, and I think that's the biggest thing. So like, you talk about the syndication, this LP that you're kind of doing for projects now that you're investing $0. Can someone with as little as like $25,000 jump into the project for you?
So
with
I'm
you?
currently working on. So the world of syndication is a very tricky world, and there's a lot of compliance that you need to get familiar with. I used to operate under what's called a Regulation D, and yes, the minimum for that was $25,000. But there are conditions, right? Like investors need to be accredited, they need to have a certain net worth, and all of that.
Okay.
And although I love that, and that is my history, I actually want to change that now. And so there's a new regulation called Regulation CF, which is essentially the crowdfunding of real estate. And so I'm actually looking to take that number down, so that I can get anyone and everyone to invest in my upcoming fund, not just rich people.
Wow.
And
So like an average Joe with just $25,000 that they want from crypto,
yes,
they can just
So
drop 25 grand in.
I
No,
it.
no, he's saying less than 25.
I wanna
Well,
go
yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
but
but
like
it-
without the whole like,
right.
net
Approval
worth
process.
thing. Yeah.
So I actually want to go down, and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do this. because it's going to be a lot of management of investors. But I
Mhm.
want to go down as low as $5,000
Wow, that's awesome,
per
man.
investor, and anybody and everybody is free to invest at their own will.
And so what's typically like the time of return that they
Um,
would see their investment back?
2 to 3 years.
Okay. So let's just say I drop $5,000, I don't see any return until 2 to 3 years. I don't even get any interest like during the
No,
meantime.
because we're building those projects. Now, there's a lot of
okay.
funds, larger funds that'll actually give you a return while it's under construction.
Okay.
But that's a very tricky process because, and I'll tell you why, they're actually in essence returning your money back to you.
Okay.
So what happens is, let's say the project is worth $12 million. They'll raise $14 million instead of 12. And then out of that $2 million, they'll actually start paying you guys. But in essence, it is your
like pay you back your 5,000.
Yes, exactly. So that's kind of your money. They're just giving it back to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's something that you can do legally. But I mean, to me, it doesn't make sense. If the project is going to cost 12 million, I'm just going to raise 12 million and just carry on. And then, just 2 to 3 years down the line, you get paid.
Well, what doesn't make sense to me is why would you put 5,000 in just to get 5,000 back?
Yeah. So, I mean, look, well,
this is just to entice people, like they're afraid to risk bigger money or whatever the case may be.
No, I know. I'm just saying,
know?
like for some, like if you want to do this whole thing where you want to reduce the rates from 25,000 to as low as 5,000,
right.
what would the return for someone's investment at 5,000 typically look like?
I think our returns for investors are typically, I like to be a little conservative, but I like to throw the 15% a year number to our
Right.
investors.
Yeah, that's great.
So over the 2 years, they would get like a 30% return?
Yeah, so every year it's about 15%. We've had projects that have done 300%. We've
Yeah.
had projects that have done 10% a year.
Yeah.
I like to stay in that 15, percent range. I think it's reasonable. I think if anybody offers people more than that,
Yeah.
you get lucky sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's not going to happen every
You're
time.
trying to under promise, over deliver.
Right.
Thing.
I mean, we're
Yeah.
always trying to over deliver.
Yeah, for
even
sure.
with the 10%, that we're always trying to over deliver.
Yeah.
It's just that you have things that happen that are out of your control. Like, we had a project that we, during the winter storm, racked up a bill for $400,000. A bill that we were unaware of.
Oh yeah, I because I was in the energy industry for a
Right.
while, so I heard about all that, and a lot of people a lot of energy companies went out of business.
Right.
It's just something that they couldn't control, is the TDSP charge, right?
Right. So
That nobody could charge because it was straight from Reliant.
right.
Their grid overpowered.
And so that was totally out of our control. It's like,
Yeah.
how do you bypass that? And you
Yeah.
can't. So it's like, okay, we're just gonna have to deal with it and move on.
Yeah.
Of course, now we didn't pay 400,000, but I mean that was the
Yeah.
bill. There was a lot of back and forth, and I think
Yeah.
we ended up settling. But it was still a large
Yeah,
amount of money.
Like I had small businesses, come to me, like restaurants and stuff like that. When I was doing energy, but they're still still there under their contract. They're smaller restaurants that typically their bill was like 1,500, was 40,000.
Right.
It was freaking insane.
Yeah.
you
It was
know?
crazy.
Yeah, people were like, "Oh, you're scamming me," and it was like, because they don't know the industry, But yeah, I mean, so raining.
Oh yeah. Oh.
We should probably wrap it up then because you're going to hear this for sure. Another thing that
Should we
that's a downfall of all
should we
this.
should we pause for a couple minutes just to see where it goes?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just pause for a couple
I
minutes.
just know that cold front's coming in.
Yeah.
So it's probably going to be raining all night.
technical difficulties.
Well, I mean, let's give it a couple of minutes
Yeah.
and then we'll decide.
If not, we'll just wrap it up.
Oh, here you go.
That's like a B.
Yeah,
B.
so-
a million with the B.
So this is probably something I've never mentioned on social media because even
Yeah.
I'm afraid of like the B word.
Yeah.
But I do think I sold out too early the
Yeah.
first time. And I think now with the pandemic coming to like kind of sort of an end, things are getting back to normal. Texas
Yeah.
is the new, number one again.
Crazy what's happening in Texas.
And I think I can do it. And of course, what is life without a challenge? So this gives me purpose. I wanna get to $1 billion in the next couple of years, and say that I achieved. I got to $1 billion. I don't think that really has any relevance as to like what it would do for my life.
Yeah.
But I do think that it gives me something to stay busy, and it gives me sense of purpose almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think really when that is gonna begin is gonna be when my new office opens up. Because right now,
Yeah.
my office is just I don't really have an office anymore since I sold my business and most of
Yeah.
my assets and everything. Um, I think when my office opens, that is really when we're gonna be pushing hard.
So the person who bought your business, the company that bought your business, they bought everything.
Yeah, they bought everything except for the smaller assets because
Okay.
like they were too small for
But
them.
like even your office, your employees, like your,
Everything.
everything. Wow.
Everything.
Okay.
Yeah. So the management company plus the actual assets. And it's funny because I was like, wow, this is my company. This is what it's worth. Why don't you guys come and take a look? And so they came a look and they said, look, your assets are okay, but your management company is kind of shitty. I mean, I don't think you know what you're doing. And I was like, what do you mean? And this is something that, a lot of people should know. If you are planning to sell, which I am always planning to sell,
Yeah.
you should structure your business from the get go in order to be sold. I mean, you may think you're running the best business in the world, but if it's not structured to be sold, you're not going to get the multiple that you're looking for. So there were a lot of things that we had to change in the business in order to make it a little more efficient. The way income was coming into the company, for example,
Mhm.
we had income coming in into each property, and then from each property, we were paying payroll for certain employees in the management company, right?
Mm.
And so now we had to redirect all those funds because we need to show income and expense in our management company,
Right.
which we weren't doing. And so, they're very basic things now that I think about it. I mean, it only makes sense. I mean, if
Yeah.
this person is getting paid at the management level, then obviously the money should come here. But these are all inefficiencies that at the time, we didn't really think about.
Exactly. Like you didn't know you were doing it wrong. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing
Yeah,
it wrong.
exactly. So
Yeah.
when these guys came in and evaluated the business, they're like, well, your management company is really not worth anything.
But that's actually great because now they're giving you like a lesson. They
Yeah.
taught you a lesson that like you're relinquishing it towards your new business that would be
Right.
10 times more efficient.
right. So
That's
not
actually
only did
pretty
they
cool.
teach us, they actually guided us on how to
Damn.
like move the money around in order to make it, because they don't want to buy another management business, right?
Right.
They want a machine that's running, it has its processes, it has all the systems. So they only wanted to acquire the assets if the management company was run correctly, because the management company is what's going to run everything.
So they taught you how to fix it and then they bought it.
And then
That's pretty
Interesting.
cool.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome
Yeah.
actually.
So they guided us on how exactly they wanted it. We structured it that way and we sold.
Damn, that's cool.
Yeah, exactly. And now I can use that process for
Yeah.
my next business.
So aside from the management stuff, it seems like you've had a lot of successes. Name the biggest failure that you've had so far.
Man, the biggest failure. I haven't talked about this, and I don't know if I want to just
That's
yet.
okay.
And the reason is because I had an issue a couple of years ago with an immigration attorney who scammed me out of like $835,000 processing immigration for me. And
Holy shit.
I thought he was gonna do one thing, and he did a completely different thing. And it's a situation that is in court right now,
Yeah.
and we're trying to get our money back, and it's just a process because the thing is,
Civil lawsuits take forever.
and he's an attorney as well, so
Huh.
Holy
That's-
shit.
that's even worse, right?
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
So
You can't sue him for malpractice?
well, he
you sued
doesn't
him for fraud?
so he doesn't have malpractice insurance or whatever it is that he needs to have.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's a tough one, man. Like I don't think I've ever told anyone that before.
Damn.
But that's probably my biggest failure till today. So nothing business related.
Yeah,
So it was
yeah,
just
yeah.
getting scammed.
It was basically getting scammed, yeah. And it was
Wow.
tough, man. It was a tough time,
Damn, that's a lot of money.
yeah, it's a lot of money. And it's just something that happened, and I think I realized that I got scammed way after the fact. And so, it was just constantly on my mind. It was like a worry on my mind at the time.
Yeah, I mean, I feel you on the civil lawsuits. It's draining psychologically.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's something that doesn't bother me anymore.
Yeah, you learn to really live past these things and go
Right.
carry on with your daily lives. So a
Yeah.
lot of people tell me.
Yeah. So, it doesn't bother me anymore. But of course, you want to think that you're number one, you're the best, you achieved all this success in business, you can, no one is above you. And then this ends up happening. And you're
And
like,
you-
shit, how the hell did that happen?
Yeah.
Uh,
Right.
And it's just something that, I think that was probably my biggest failure. In business, I don't think I've had any failures. But then again, I'm trying to think, in real estate, I don't think it's me. I just think real estate is a very safe environment to play in, as long
Yeah,
as
I heard you talk about real estate is a better investment than crypto.
I mean, if you're making, man, if you're making 50% a year, which
Mhm.
people can
Yeah.
in real estate,
hmm
why invest in the stock market? Why invest in crypto? I mean, you have 50%. If you focus and you put your head down and you get to work, you can make 50% a year on real estate if you leverage correctly and you do the business right. Yeah, I don't think that's a problem.
Yeah. Damn, that's an interesting take. Damn. Well, thanks for sharing that. That's
That's a
shit.
tough one,
Yeah,
man.
that's that. Sorry that happened, man.
Yeah, that's all right,
Yeah.
man. You know, it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say is your biggest struggle right now?
You know, life's good, man. I don't think I struggle anymore. I will tell you this: I don't operate my business anymore. So I actually have a CEO, and my biggest struggle was at one point realizing that I'm probably not the best person to run my business. So my business is called Hamza Invest, my new fund, and you know all of that. And I I trained somebody who was under me, and she turned out to be better than me in negotiating contracts, finding deals,
And that's hard to do.
working pricing.
That's no, like the
Yeah,
person that he found and being able to relinquish literally your entire life
right,
to just one person is
right.
Mhm.
really hard to
Put
do.
that trust in them.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
And
That's
and
hard.
she's just a machine. And at one point I was like, you know what, I think you actually need to run my company. And I think that was hard on both me and her at the time.
Damn.
And I think that is probably uh you know I guess one of the most like difficult things I've had to do in a while. So but it worked out, and it's working out great. So I'm just gonna let it ride. In fact, I've even given her equity in my business.
That's sick.
Is
Yeah.
this the business
Yeah.
that you sold?
No, so we started our new fund.
Yeah.
It's called Hamza
Hamza
Invest.
Invest.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's basically we started it as a joke.
Hmm.
Our new fund, and this is the company that I plan on taking to $1 billion.
Let's go.
Yeah,
Let's
So it's
go.
gonna be a funny story. Hopefully, if we get there one day.
Yeah.
That I had a TikTok handle, and it was Hamza Invest. So we
Yeah.
decided to create an LLC and then make it $1 billion company.
That's fucking cool.
Jeez.
So, okay, I had this really good question. And it seems like every single time I'm about to ask a question, you're like already in that realm. So what does your new organization look like? That's so different, aside from the whole like management side that you learned. What does it look like?
So we're gonna lose the suits and the shiny shoes.
I love that.
It's gonna be hoodies and jeans.
Hey, let's go.
And that's how we're gonna meet people, and that's how we're gonna talk, and that's how we're gonna present. And it's gonna be more chill. I think times have changed significantly.
Yeah.
I am getting a little older, but at the same time, I am noticing a huge shift in corporate culture that I would like to create. So I think people will be the same, the culture will be completely different.
Yeah, I mean, I met my mentor. I didn't know he'd be my mentor, until
Well, rain's back.
there's the rain back. Some powerful rain. Let's
You
take
might, you might not hear it, but I have a pretty good feeling you'd hear this.
Okay, hold on, give it a second.
take a quick pause.
I'm gonna check the weather. It says it's gonna rain at 11.
It's just on and off. I feel like.
Yeah, it's gonna be freezing
Yeah, soon.
all
It's
week.
over the weekend, right?
Over the weekend and then all the week.
Man, I had an Austin trip planned.
We're almost done. I think I have like 3 more questions.
Okay.
And should be able to wrap it up.
But before we leave though, to prevent like anything from here like bursting, should I leave the heater on?
No, the heater only cools stuff internally.
Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
know, but should I keep anything in here warm?
No, I think the only stuff that bursts is the stuff outside.
Yeah.
I don't think you're
Like
gonna
the
have
pipes and stuff.
No, these are all internal pipes. You'll be fine. These
Yeah.
are the sprinkler systems. So
Okay.
it's like we have the sprinkler system back there, but other than that, everything is external. that
Okay.
We don't, necessarily control.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. So
Just give it a second.
It's so cool how you can hear it in the mics.
But yeah, but take it off, and it's like substantially less.
Yeah.
yeah,
it's just
like
gonna make it
heightened.
sound a lot louder.
Yeah. So
You should have heard it before the installation,
Oh yeah,
it's
bro.
like freaking like pellets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you shouldn't even
shooting,
talk.
shooting BB gun
Yeah,
pellets
yeah,
at that
yeah.
little plastic. So
Are the ones you build insulated?
the ones I build actually, we have this special insulation, so we don't use this.
The panels?
Yeah, so it's like it's not a panel, it's a roll, but it's like 8 inches thick.
oh,
Is it
wow.
silver?
Yes, and then we roll that all the way, and then if tenants need like extra insulation, then they foam over that.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's a 5-inch open cell foam.
Right.
You know, it was just sheet metal, literally, like
Yeah.
130 degrees in here.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
insulation is important, man.
Yeah, very,
And
very.
I feel like in winter it keeps the place cooler.
Oh
Oh yeah, yeah,
Oh, yeah,
definitely,
yeah.
definitely.
Well, before we put the AC unit to kind of climate control it, because if people are going to rent this space out in Houston during the
Yeah.
summer, it needs to be cool.
Right.
So we put that in. Still was not cold. It was still
Yeah.
not cold in here. So
Yeah.
we insulated this a lot better. But the main reason we built this wall was to seal off that gate
Yeah.
because everything was escaping
Right.
out that
Yeah.
gate.
Right.
Yeah,
So
we-
we really had to like insulate this thing from front to back, top to bottom, side to side.
Yeah.
yeah. So like, okay, so we're resuming. I met, you know, my mentor. He was here at the event. He brought the 2 McLarens. I don't know if you met him, but he's in the energy sector, very, very highly in the real estate space as well. And ever since I met him in 2012, he's never worn a suit.
Yep.
He's always worn Lululemon to close his biggest deals. Just, you know, a t-shirt from Lulu and some joggers, and that's it. And, you know, I've really learned that throughout the years, that suits the formality of that becomes less and less appetizing to a lot of people. Like, people want to see you feel loose
Yep.
in the space.
They want to see you for who you really are.
Yeah, they want to see the casual vibe. Like,
Yeah.
this guy's confident. You know,
Right.
I'm gonna give him the deal because not only in his track history, but he carries himself really well.
There's nothing to prove. There's nothing
Yeah,
to
like some guy coming in a $5,000 Armani suit trying to impress you. It's like, well, obviously he hasn't done anything impressive. You know what I mean? If he's trying to impress me with a suit, but
And you see that in Hollywood or just like in like big corporate positions like Bill Gates. He's not gonna. You'll see
yeah.
tons of
Mark
photos.
Zuckerberg's just won a T-shirt.
Yeah, you see
everywhere he
you see
goes.
some of these brilliant mega billionaires. You know, just
Yeah,
chilling.
Yeah.
yeah.
You know,
I do agree to a certain point where yes.
Sometimes you're gonna need it.
However, yes, a suit has saved my ass many a time.
Oh,
Yeah,
of
when I was
course.
first
Yeah,
starting. You know
yeah.
what I mean?
100%.
But for what you're doing right
Right.
now, like,
But you'll attract those people too.
I think
yeah,
the minute I started getting a social media following, that is when the suit became not relevant anymore. It was
Correct.
like,
people
you know,
already know you.
It's
Yeah, you're just-
exactly. So it's like, oh, you already know me, so that's it.
yeah,
you know?
I'm good. Yeah,
Correct.
So, what would you say is your greatest superpower?
My greatest superpower is I think I just don't. I have an immigrant mindset. So what that means is, and I think you guys will relate to this, is that we don't calculate working in hours. You know, as immigrants, and I think this is true for all first gen immigrants, is that we just do the work until it's done. It doesn't really matter how much time it's gonna take.
Damn.
And you know, we've cycled through a lot of different people within the company, you know, and it's just difficult for some people to dedicate time because they have things going on in their life, right? Different things, different circumstances, different reasons. But I think the immigrant mindset is literally hell bent on just getting the job done and not looking at how much time we've spent doing it. You know, it's just get it done.
Do you think that's an immigrant mindset? Because I know plenty of immigrants that aren't like that.
Yes.
You know, so do you think more of it's just like an entrepreneur mindset?
Well, maybe it's a combination, I would think.
Okay.
Just because, you know, back home we were never used to working on like an hourly basis or a time base. There was no like
project basis.
Yeah. There was no like real like
Trading time for money type
right.
thing.
There,
Yeah.
So we didn't have that back home. It's like you just work as hard as you can until it's done.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. There's a lot of immigrants that don't do that. You know, and so I would assume that yes, the entrepreneurial spirit is probably stronger than a lot of other things.
Just curious, what was your upbringing like?
Upbringing, dad worked all the time. I think my mom did 90% of the work raising me. And I truly believe that my mom is a genius in the way that she raised me for where I was at. So of course, I grew up in the Middle East, very conservative, you know. However, my mom is a very liberal person. So, you know,
Interesting.
yeah, so she, you know, I got to see a lot of things maybe that a lot of people are not exposed to, you know, as far as places I would go, things I would do, you know. And I really have my mom to thank for all of that, because that is really what made me, you know, it's a simple things. Like in our culture, in the Middle Eastern culture from back home, it's everything is segregated. Like male do their own thing, the females do their own thing. You don't really get to
Correct.
meet, you know. And this was not true historically. So historically, you know, everybody was together, all the events were together, and then over time, for whatever reason, you know, things started getting segregated. And so my mom, you know, once again, very liberal, allowed me to be around everybody and anybody, you know, and I'm talking gender, social class, you know, whatever it was. So I really think I got a lot of exposure and you know, a good understanding of what the world looks like.
Perspective.
Yeah, beyond where, you know, where I was being raised, which is why I think it was very easy for me to say, okay, I'm gonna pick up and leave, and be able to come here and adapt just so quickly. You know,
Mhm.
because a lot of people, you talk to them, they've spent 20 years in the U.S., but they're set in their ways. You know, it's just this is
Yeah.
the way I was. This is the way I
Yeah.
was raised. Man, you've been here for 20 years. You know, and they
You gotta
refuse.
change somehow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they you know, they just refuse to adapt. And I think that's probably uh, one of the most important things in my upbringing that I think was different than a lot of other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially in your culture.
Especially in my culture, yeah. Specifically,
Yeah.
my culture. So, you know, I'm from Yemen, extremely tribal, very, very segregated. Like, I'm talking to the extent where people don't meet their wives until the day they're married.
Yeah.
You know, that's
Yeah.
how it is. And
Is that how it was for you?
no, I you know, I dated quite a bit. I ended up marrying my girlfriend from college, and it actually, my mom helped me a lot to get that done. You know, because my dad was like, absolutely not. This is not happening. What the hell is this? You know,
Like what, dating?
or you know, getting married to your
Yeah.
girlfriend, because
Mm.
I'm sure he had like some, you know,
Arranged marriage.
some type of situation set up, you know,
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
somebody when I was a kid or something.
your
I don't
mom-
know.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So my mom really helped me out, and you know, I was
amazing.
always very like outspoken, and I was earning money at the time, so I really didn't feel the need to, like, you know, ask for permission. It was more like, okay, this is what I'm doing. I'm getting married. You know, she's been my
Yeah.
girlfriend for a couple of years, and I want to get married. And
Yeah.
my dad was like, what the hell is this? You know, and my mom was like, okay, we'll figure it out. You know,
Yeah.
and she really helped me push that. Not only with my dad, with my entire family. Because
That's
you're talking
awesome.
uncles and aunts, and you know, there's gonna be
Huge
uproar
family.
in the community. You know how it is.
Right.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so you know, she really helped me bypass all of that.
That's awesome,
Yeah.
man. That's crazy. Are you is your family as financially successful as you are?
Well, my whole family's here.
Oh, okay. So they're all here now?
So I
In Texas?
Yeah, so I sponsored all of them, and I
Yeah.
brought them all here, and we all live on the same street. I bought them homes.
Oh, that's
And so
amazing,
we have
dude.
3 homes on the same street in Sugarland, and they all have equity in my business.
That's
Damn,
awesome,
that's,
dude.
Every
that's
single person,
so
yeah.
cool, bro.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
I mean, that, like I said, it's leading into my next question. What is your why?
What is my why?
For business
Just everything that you're doing.
of existence.
I think my why now has changed significantly than what it was a couple of years ago. Of course, my why in the past was completely different, maybe a little more selfish. Now, my why is really, you know, how can I help other people, you know, do better in what they're doing? Whether it's real estate, whether it's office warehouse. Look, I'm biased to office warehouses. Okay, so I'm gonna push for, like, if someone comes and tells me, "Hey, I want to build a house," I'll be like, "No, just wait. Don't do that. Okay, let me show you these numbers, and then you decide." Right? And then, of course, it makes sense. It's less work. It's easier. No finishing. Right?
Yeah.
And I always feel like maybe they have like this thing where they're like, "Okay, what's your you know, what's the catch?"
It's always like that.
Right. But,
It's too good to be true.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Like,
I don't.
he's too nice.
No, like they're gonna be. I feel like they're always waiting for, like, okay, he's gonna ask me to invest with him. You know what I mean? And I don't do that. Like, I'm like, you know, I literally genuinely give them all the information, and I leave it at that, and I'm gone. And so I think that is when they realize that, okay, you know what? I think there's some truth to this. Let me look into it. So my why which I think I'm very efficient at, is I really want to have other people invest in these type of projects. I really think that the demand is so high that if everybody who listens to this starts building warehouses tomorrow, or office warehouses specifically, there will still be more demand. And you can easily create the demand if it doesn't exist.
Yeah, 100%. Damn.
You know?
Shit, that's awesome, bro. I feel like David and I have this similar interest too. Like, no matter what field it is in our specialties, like, we're always trying to help somebody. Like, one of our goals, and I keep saying this every podcast, one of our goals is to form a charity out of this business in the future. Like, when this business has, hopefully sprouted in the near future, we want to actually build a community. I mean, our goal is to build a community with this business. And link up with organizations maybe like yours, maybe like Savage, maybe like our real estate company that I'm building, and bring people that are successful together and actually form a charity.
Yep.
Because the most important thing is, like, I mean, aside from taxes, most entrepreneurs are, they're in their own realm. Entrepreneurship for a lot of people is a very selfish sport, and being able to give back, I think, is unheard of. Like, in terms of a big entrepreneur getting together with a group of big entrepreneurs to build a charity and to actually give back. Because what you're talking about is actually what you've said today is pretty amazing, and it shows like true character and what you're actually doing. It's not about the money. It's about the dream to be able to like help people do the same thing you are, and hopefully also make $1 billion. And that's very powerful. And it's that, I think that's why, one of the reasons why I push so hard to have you as a guest here today, because I think, David probably hasn't even heard about you until today, because he's not really.
Well, I mean, I heard about you on the grand opening.
For me,
right?
I kept like, Hamza. For me, I see a lot of.
No, but this is good though, because I don't know this space.
Yeah, and it's
Right.
amazing. For us
and
to
I
get
would love
into.
to make these crazy
billions of dollars.
I mean, dude,
Yeah.
even $350,000 sounds amazing to me.
Yeah.
Right.
Just anything, like
Yeah.
any way to diversify my incomes.
Yeah.
And if I know this space and this is something I can invest in and grow my net worth doing, and try and help people do the same thing,
100%, bro.
that sounds cool to me.
Yeah, man. So, I don't have any more questions. I appreciate you. Do you have any more questions?
I don't, man.
I guess what our new tradition on this podcast, because of Emily, is, we want you to ask us a question.
Or do you have a question?
Do you have a question for us?
Yeah. So I'll ask you a question. Why do you think it is so important to create a nonprofit
Why?
to give back?
I think, like, I have this image in my head that, I just want to give back,
Yes.
right? And in doing so, most people, I actually learned this from the fraternity that I was in college. We were the only fraternity to have our own philanthropy in our college, right? And, we saw how many lives we were changing. And it was money that our direct organization was raising. And we
Right.
knew that nobody was taking money out. They weren't benefiting their chairs or having this fee or whatever the case may be. And, we don't know where a lot of money goes into when you donate to charities, like Red Cross, for example. I mean, Salvation Army is not even a charity, but people think it is. They're 100% profit. And, I think, like, part of me growing up, I learned from my parents, has always been like, no matter how many times you get stepped on, you got to fight back. And a lot of people get stepped on continuously throughout the years. And being able to give people back something from people who are truly successful, and a group of people who are truly successful that genuinely care about a community and actually giving back, is probably unheard of.
Yeah.
Because in the space of large charities, I mean, everybody's making millions of dollars. Look at the pandemic
Right.
and all the organizations that were, you've given money to. Black Lives Matter. Where did that money go to? It went to the upper level that bought $4 million homes.
Right.
That's crazy. There was people dying. Their businesses were getting burned. And for me, it doesn't matter how much money I make in my life. It's all about the impact. And that's the most important aspect of me. So,
Right. That's awesome, man. That's great. Look,
well,
That's so
What?
cool.
You want to answer that?
I
You
mean,
answer to-
dude, I mean, to be honest, I didn't even know you wanted to do a charity. You know, this is kind of something he thrusted upon him. But I mean, yeah, I mean, every time I go into business with anybody, I have a very similar outlook on life. I mean, it's not always about the money. It's always going into business with some friends and how we can both mutually benefit each other.
Yeah.
You know, and that's one thing I've always liked about Daniel is, I mean, yeah, we've definitely had our ups and downs, but regardless of that, anytime he starts a business or I start a business, we both try and find a way to include each other into that spotlight. And if we can do that for other people
Yeah.
that maybe don't have a mentor or a friend that is successful that can bring them in, and you can somehow either sponsor them or I don't even know how you would go about distributing funds for a charity and who you would pick and how that would even go down.
yeah, we
but
don't know any part of that yet.
but I mean, the whole part of the mindset of doing that sounds freaking awesome.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
I think what ends up happening is, or what I've realized, in this very short time is, and I think you guys are feeling the same thing probably, is that giving back probably gives us more happiness than buying something, or
100%.
if I buy like a new car or a new whatever yacht or whatever, the happiness is very short lived. To as where I feel like if I give back, that happiness just is like on the next level, and it lasts way longer.
It's like, I mean, a simple analogy would be like Christmas morning, right?
Right.
Like when you get an awesome gift and you know they're going to love it, you kind of sit there and wait for them to open it because you
Yeah.
know it's going to make you feel some type of way because you're going to see how happy they are. It's
Right.
essentially the same thing, and if I had the money to do that, I would love to do that for other
Right.
people. But yeah, dude, I mean,
Changing lives is amazing.
yeah, it's definitely a better feeling to help other people succeed.
Yeah.
And it sucks because sometimes like you'll be doing these nice things like creating your YouTube channel and you're literally just giving people genuine advice to help them and they think it's too good to be true.
Right.
And it
Right.
sucks
Yeah.
that like that's actually the world we live in. Like
Right.
you're actually giving them millions of dollars worth of value and they don't even either jump on it, they don't care, or they think you're just trying to scam them and like take part in it.
Exactly.
100%.
Exactly. It's just but I do think that social media has changed the game for me personally.
Yeah.
It's
Totally.
been able you've been able to elevate your business a
Def-
lot
a
faster.
lot faster.
Yeah.
Way faster. And even communication times have been cut down to like a quarter of what they used to be, because
Yeah.
now people can just, or I can tell people, hey, you know what, watch this video, I'm going to email it to you, just watch it and then let's have a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And if they watch it, chances are they have very specific questions, and we can get those addressed in literally like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's just amazing.
Would you say what you do is hard?
No. I don't think real estate is a very process intensive world where the processes were created hundreds of years ago. We just need to go through them. I think learning about all the processes is the hard part. I think the implementation is very simple.
Yeah.
So once you're aware, you can just implement, and you'll make a ton of money.
All right.
And to get into real estate.
Everybody get into real estate.
Industrial.
Industrial real estate.
flex space. Yeah, so we'll I guess that's the end of episode 5. We appreciate you guys for listening. We appreciate Hamza so much
Absolutely.
for blessing us with this course. Essentially, this podcast has turned into a course. So yeah, we appreciate you, Hamza. Thanks for coming out. And if you have anything else left to add.
No, thank you for thank you for inviting me. I had a great time.
Yeah. And that's it, guys. See you all in the next episode.
Awesome, man. Maybe we can. I can rent some flex space from you in the future.
Yeah, if you guys rent flex space, our paths will cross. It's funny because I was talking to 2 people, and they were talking about, one of them was talking about multifamily, and he asked me if I know somebody. And I was like, I actually bought a deal from this person. And they're like, oh, what a small world. And I'm like, oh, if you're in the real estate game for long enough, I mean, everybody
Just knows each other.
Everybody kind of knows each other, right? And then I was talking to this other guy, and he's like, oh, do you know this guy? And I'm like, I just sold the deal to him, man.
Oh, that's
And
hilarious.
so, once you're in the real estate game for a little bit,
Yeah.
Just curious, how old are you? Okay. And do you have any kids?
I got married young, 24.
Oh wow.
I had my kids at 25 and
When you said you came to America and immigrated, how old were you? You came in? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, but like, 9 to 37. But
Yeah, I think you did good.
but I think that, my biggest regret that I think about it is I didn't document.
Well, because also social media wasn't really a
But,
thing back then.
I didn't take that.
Of course, of course.
Now gives me joy, and what makes it more fun is that I'm documenting the
You can
whole
look
thing.
back and
I can look back, and everybody else can look back.
Yeah,
It's gonna be so. I think it's just gonna be so much fun.
So what kind of stuff are you like? Which platform is like your most popular? Would you say TikTok?
TikTok than YouTube.
Okay. And how often are you posting?
I just started now. I stopped for a while, but I just started now.
You do everything yourself?
It's like how do you run a business?